Hi there, VC, it's Steve Whitty here with another video. Another recent listens video. I think this is number 11 in this little series. Hope everyone's well. Weather's been absolutely gorgeous in the UK. Really hot yesterday. It's going to be a little bit cooler now, which is alright because I'm going out this afternoon to some events. Before I carry on, I've noticed I've had a little bit of an increase in my views, so big thank you to everyone that's taken their time out to view my video. I do appreciate it. I think there's so much to do. There's so many VC videos. I know I struggle to try and catch up and watch, and sometimes the inclination is not to probably watch. But it takes time from listening to the music as well. So, do big thank you to everyone that does take their time out to watch and comment as well. So, appreciate it. As I said, this is a recent listens video. I've got 10 records to show that I've recently been purchased some time back and got round to listening to, and just thought I'd share what I thought. So the first one is The Thoughts of Emilis Davjak, their debut album, which was originally released in 1967, sorry. This is a 1973 reissue, and just show. This is now was released on Columbia. It's American reissue, Columbia Special Products reissue. Now, the Nice started out as backing band for P.P. Arnold, who had just left as backing singer to Ike and Tina Turner, and immediate to put sort of like it was going to put her out as a big singer, and she needed backing band, and the Nice was put together. So the Nice consisting of Keith Emerson keyboards, Davey O'List on guitar, Brian Davison drums, Lee Jackson on bass, and the title track for the album is sort of like a pseudonym combining all the elements of all the members' names. Now, this album itself, I would probably describe more as pop psych, particularly the title track. I think only it's when you listen to a track like Rondo, which was their take on Dave Brubeck's Blue Rondo a la Turk, that you see the sort of direction that the band was looking to go, particularly the keyboard-based Keith Emerson sort of leading the band. It's not a bad album all in all, so it's worth checking out. Also managed then to find the follow-up, which is, if I get this right, Ars Longa Vita Brevis. And for those who know your Greek or Latin, it's actually the title is attributed to Hippocrates, the sort of like father of medicine, and it basically means art is long, life is short. There you go. During the recording of this album, Davey O'List left the band, and while the remaining three toyed with getting new guitarists, I think Steve Howe was mentioned, they decided to become a keyboard-led trio. Again, this album is a US reissue on the Columbia Special Products. This album was originally released in 1968. And this sort of cements the direction the band was going in. The title track itself takes a whole of side 2. Now, as I said, this is an American reissue, and this does contain the track America, which was from West Side Story. In the UK, it was just a single, released as a single on its own, never put out of any album. The track itself wasn't so much that it was controversial, it gave them the only hit single they had in the UK. It's when they performed it live, and they did one concert at the Royal Albert Hall where Keith Emerson set light to the American flag. And you have to remember that this time, we're talking about Vietnam here, so there was quite a lot of anti-American feeling about their presence in Vietnam. And Leonard Bernstein wasn't impressed, sort of said so publicly, and it led them to being banned from Royal Albert Hall itself. And in fact, it was the start of events where the venue Royal Albert Hall actually stopped allowing rock bands to play there. And it lasted some time actually, which was a shame. But I think it was still, rock music was still very looked down upon by the establishment at that time. Very good album actually, and you can tell the direction the band were going in. Next up, it's Robert Palmer's Double Fun, his fourth solo album released in 1978. Now, this album sort of is a mishmash of what was going on at the time: blue-eyed soul, some disco, some rock. The best known track off here is Every Kind of People. Now, that song was written by Andy Fraser, who was the bass player in Three. Now, Andy Fraser never released this himself. Palmer heard a demo of this and said, well, I could do something with this. And he recorded it, and it became a minor hit single in the UK and the US for him. This is, and as I say, the album itself's not too bad. There is a cover, You Really Got Me, of the King, that the Kinks originally did, and it's one of those where you wonder what if this was just to fill the album up. It's not that great, but as an album, it's not too bad. And then Robert Palmer's Heavy Nova. This was released in 1988. This was the first album recorded for EMI. After about 15 years with Ireland, whether it be solo or with Vinegar Joe, he jumped ship. His previous album, Riptide, had been a huge success, particularly because of Addicted to Love. And whether his contract was running out, I think, and Ireland just couldn't afford to pay him, and EMI came in with a bigger offer, he decided to go with them. This album sort of follows more on the same with Riptide, to be quite honest. Simply Irresistible and She Makes My Day are the two hit singles off here. Not surprisingly, it's the second biggest selling album he ever had after Riptide, and I don't think he ever really attained the commercial heights again. He had a couple of hit singles in the UK, but until his death in 2003, he never really achieved those heights. Not a bad album, but I don't think it's. I'd prefer Riptide over to that. Next album is commonly known as a two-fac. So you've got Shazam from The Move and the debut album Move. Let me get this out. Now, I saw this. I got this at Oxfam in Solihull. They have a specialist books and record store, and I walked past it and I saw Shazam, and it was displayed in the window, and I was saying it was only 15 quid. Now I thought, well, this can't be an original Regals on off home. This is they go for silly money. So, and then just how it happened over the weekend, the one weekend I was just going on Discogs and saw a thing about a twofer, and I thought, well, okay. So I walked past and I thought, is that a twofer or is it just some reissue? So I went in the shop and I could see on the back that. So, as I said, this is a 2-for-1 album released on the Fly label. Yeah. So it consists of the debut album, Move. This album was originally released in 1968. It's the only album that featured the initial lineup. And it contains Flower in the Rain and Fire Brigade, both of which were big hits for the band. And it's really a very good pop psych album. I was recently rewatching Psych Britannia. It was on the BBC iPlayer. It's a documentary about psych in the UK and the influence. And while Birmingham wasn't sort of like big into psych, big learning curve for psych, it obviously what happened in London was drifting up the motorway and hit Birmingham, and Roy Wood picked up on it and wrote some really good songs in it. I think Joe Boyd, the producer, sort of picked up on that fact. So in itself, that's not a bad album. And then the second album was, I was big to mention, this bit as well being the only album issue featuring the original lineup. It's the only Move album that ever charted in the UK. The second album was Shazam, which was released in 1970. Now, this is considered, could be seen as the gap, that sort of the bridge between the Move and ELO, which Roy would form with Jeff Lynne. It's the last album to feature Carl Wayne on vocals, and it's also the first album to feature Rick Price on bass. This was a sort of, has been described as sort of capturing the stage act at that time. It's a mishmash of West Coast rock, psych, and heavy rock. It's not a bad album. You've got opening track Hello Susie, which Ehrmann Corner had as a big hit single. While it never charted, the critical reception was good for this album. And I'm really pleased to have these because, as I say, on their own, if you're looking for the originals, I've seen them go. I've seen three figures quoted for each. It's way above what I would pay for a record. Next album is Chuck Berry's London Chuck Berry Sessions. This album basically, it's on the album. You've got the studio side and you've got the live side, and it's probably the live side everyone knows because it features My Ding-a-Ling. On it, there's an almost 12-minute version of this. Of it. I must admit, when he passed away a couple of years ago, I just thought, God, it's so sad that all he's going to be remembered for is singing My Ding-a-Ling, and not take away his influence that he had. But my best side is the studio side. It's certainly the most interesting side. Let's Boogie, Mean Old World, I Will Not Let You Go, Londonderry Blues, I Love You. Side 2 was recorded in Coventry at the Lancaster Arts Festival. Lancaster University was Lancaster Polytechnic as it was then. Was the higher education establishment in Coventry at that time. And on the band, his backing band featured Robbie McIntosh of Average White Band on drums. I loved My Ding-a-Ling when it came out. I was 7, and I'm not surprised it was number 1 in America and the US. But if I don't hear that song again in my lifetime, I won't be too upset. But I'd say side 1, the studio side, is quite interesting. I am, if not, eclectic in my tastes. And this is Boney M's debut album, Take the Heat Off Me. This, as I said, Boney M. This album was released in 1976. Now, Boney M was a sort of based in Germany, but it's sort of like Caribbean band put together by Frank Farian. It's very much. He obviously went on and did Milli Vanilli, but this album's not too bad. I actually got a bit of soft spot for Boney M. I mean, old Bobby Farrell at the back. He jumped around on his appearances on telly like a prat, but you could not like him. And they did do some good songs. I mean, the lead single off here is Daddy Cool. It's just a great song in itself. There you go. Atlantic. So the other hit single was Sunny. They did a version of No Woman No Cry on here. It's actually not a bad album. I've seen the other albums, Love for Sale and Night Flight to Venus, but it's the first time I'd seen this as a debut, and it's in such great nick. I thought, I'll take that. It's only cost me £1. Nothing wrong with a bit of pop now and again. Next album, I suppose, go back to more critically lauded. This is Lodger by David Bowie. It's 1979, his 13th studio album, last of the so-called Berlin trilogy, even though it was recorded in Switzerland and New York City. This, of the three, is probably more pop sounding. I've got a soft spot for this album, particularly because my first piece of Bowie I ever brought was the single Boys Keep Swinging. And I remember just watching the video and just thinking, wow, this guy's weird. DJ is also another hit single on here. It has grown to be quite influential on the Britpop scene. Apparently, I didn't notice at the time, but I think Noel Gallagher used "Don't Look Back in Anger." He actually used that title. The song "Look Back in Anger" as the sort of like basis, the title for the song. However true that is, I'm not sure, but apparently I read that and I thought, okay. And then Blur used the chord sequences from "Boys Keep Swinging" apparently for on their single "MOR." So it's, I suppose as an album, it's not. It never gets loaded up there as one of his great ones because Bowie did so many great ones, but it's still a good album all the same. Another sort of like classic album. I'd already got a reissue of this, but I saw a mono version floating around for next to nothing. I thought I'd pick this up. Highway 61 Revisited by Bob Dylan. Started using rock musicians as a backing band. And it's mainly it is electric, except for the last track, Desolation Row. But you've got Like a Rolling Stone, Highway 61 Revisited, Ballad of a Thin Man. So it's just one of those classic albums. You know, to see a mono version covers a bit, seen better days, and I think vinyl's cleaned up okay. A lot of these records do get to that period. They get played a lot, so they do sound a bit beat, and so you get what you get. You get what you pay for, but it's not. It's actually not a bad sounding album. I'm just pleased to have that. Final album I'm going to show you is George Harrison's Cloud 9. This released in 1987. It's his 11th studio album, and it was the last album that was released in his lifetime. It really was. It was co-produced by Jeff Lynne, and really sort of brought Harrison back into the public eye a little bit. His 80s albums sort of dropped off a little bit, and in fact, after Gone Troppo, he took a bit of a break from music. He was probably more interested in films at this point. He was handmade films. The lead single off this, Got My Mind Set on You, which was a cover, and I can't remember who did the original. Number 2 in the UK. I'm not sure if it made number 1 in the US. As I say, it's a good album. When We Were Fab was Fab. And from that, obviously with Lynne, knew Tom Petty set up the Travelling Wilburys. So for Harrison at this time, he was quite prolific for music. Then he suddenly just dropped off again, reappearing just when the anthology, and obviously we lost him in 2001, which was sad. But if you're going to have one, it's a good album to remember people. But obviously, we all know, to have at least his last album in his lifetime was a decent album. Nothing worse if it had been something that was not as good, so to speak. So, VC, that is. Oh, those are the records I'm going to show you. I think I've been rambling on for a bit, 18 minutes. Hope everyone has a good Sunday and enjoy the good weather wherever you are, unless you're in a place where it's raining. But at the moment, Europe's in a grip of a heat wave. So, if you're new to the channel and you like what you see, click on the subscribe button. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Always love the interaction. Leave a comment, I will get back to you. So, VC, until the next video, take care of yourselves, keep spinning, more importantly, keep smiling.